Genesis Federation is confirmed as the first mega alliance. Eve Echoes struggles to find balance in the sandbox, and we take a behind the scenes look at running an alliance. All that and more. Trigger warning. I'm Kanos Kerensky, and this is the Kanos Kerensky Show. Hey everyone, and welcome to the show. As always, I am your host, Kano Skrinsky, and I am joined here on the show by Max Portis and Saipak of Lost Corporation. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Hey, Kerensky. Thanks for having us.
So, our big topic of the day is Genesis has turned into a mega alliance somehow. Apparently, Rex has some sort of addiction with collecting corporations. So here we are, and this is the official announcement that we have expanded our executor team. So, Max and Saipak, welcome to the executor team. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself? We'll start with Saipak in the top left corner there.
Yeah, thanks. I'm the XO, so the executive officer of Lost. We are a German bunch, or a German-speaking bunch, rather. And so, being German myself, I'm sitting here in beautiful Australia, and was just given the opportunity to join the executive team. And it's a great honor. It's a cool bunch. Lots of interesting, crazy people at the top, at the bottom, everywhere. But it's been a hell of a ride, and enjoying it so far.
Well, we're definitely glad to have you. Max, go ahead and tell us about yourself, and also as the CEO of your corp, tell us about your corporation.
Well, that's a funny story. Hi there. So I'm a proper German with a proper German accent. Um, and we're the first German corp in the Alliance, now not the only German corp in the Alliance anymore. Mama keeps picking up corporations left and right. We've only been with Genesis for a couple of weeks. And in fact, I think this is a story that many folks can relate to. We started out when the game launched as a bunch of people who just, some bitter old Eve vets playing some 10 years ago. What is this new mobile game? Oh, Eve Echoes, developed in China. It's probably full of crap microtransactions. Okay, let's have a look at it. How bad can it be, I guess? And a couple of days later, you're completely addicted to it. You're in there, and in the beginning, I, as well as many others in my organizational team, didn't actually want to lead a corporation or do anything. We just wanted to play a fun little mobile game on our phones, right? Because we had all this previous experience in Eve, and we know how much time you can, lose when you have to organize a corporation.
I think
or
you mean
any such.
invest time, not lose.
So there's a thing, and it's funny, but it's true. You end up playing Discord more than you actually get to play the game, and playing the game is just spinning your ship in stations, right?
Right.
So we did not want to do this. So originally, when the corp was started, someone led the corp who had not the faintest idea about how to do that and how to go about it. And it took like a week or two for the entire thing to completely fail, like recruiting random people from all over the place with the notion of let's go to nullsec because we are going to be a nullsec corp. So here we are in Stain with lots of other people around us, shooting at T6 rats, making our first ISK and getting shot down and meeting neighbors. And, turns out you have to negotiate. You have to find your place among your peers. And for our corp leadership at that time, that quickly turned into too much of a hassle. So they decided to roll it all up, pack it all up, and run back to HiSec.
Oh boy.
Like spontaneous announcement on Discord. And then, we decided that no, that's not what we're going to do. Let's actually restructure We split off, and this was on on September the 1st, right? September the 1st, our corp was formed. We took, the best of our people. We built a new leadership structure from people who were originally hesitant to lead anything to, but here, someone had to pick up the slack, right? And it ended up being me. And I said initially, I don't want to do this permanently. I'm like going to I'm going to put the initial effort in, like build
Right.
a new structure, build a new Discord, and first and foremost, go out and find an alliance, because that's what you have to do. You have to, you can go around, have fun as a corp, but alliance gameplay opens up the game so much more.
Absolutely.
And, obviously there's options, but I actually saw, I think one of the content creators, put a video on YouTube, and it had Mama on it. So Mama called in. I think surprisingly, there was a controversy with Doomsy and
Yeah, I know which episode you're talking about.
all
Yeah.
that all that stuff. So I saw Mama there, and I was kind of curious about, okay, what's this Genesis thing? They seem like a, allegedly a very hostile bunch with lots of shit talkers and racists and what have you. But here's this female leader who, appears to talk some sense, and was interested. So I thought, all right, let's just go there and check it out. How, again, same notion as with Eve Echoes. Let's just give it a look.
Yeah, just
And
give it a look, and here you are.
here we are. And the great thing about this whole journey is it took us less than a week from being on the brink of losing the corp, and to reforming, to joining Genesis, to moving down to Esoteria, and to becoming part of something, much bigger and more substantial than we could ever have imagined. Just a week later, we were flying in, 300 man fleets, trying to have more than one frame a second load on our emulator screens, and trying to shoot some space pixels somewhere. And it's just mind-boggling, the scale of the whole thing, right? From just this tiny little operation to being part of something so massive. And it's just, you have to be open and just embrace the journey. And if you look at the game itself, I'm going to stop talking in a second. You have to cut me off, Kerensky.
No,
Sorry.
I'm interested. This is the most I've heard you talk. Normally, you're very sad because we're putting you to work. So this is the happiest Max Porters I've ever seen.
No, it's like really, because I think it's a great experience, and I hope that many can relate to this, because the game itself, if you just strip out all the interactions and community and human aspects of it, the game is pretty shit. I mean, you got to be
That's going to
honest.
be one of the big topics. We're going to talk about a lot of that stuff. I wanted to get the alliance management, the metagame stuff first, but we're definitely going to talk about some issues with the game. So
I mean, it's a skeleton of a game. It reminds me a lot of Eve in the very, very early days.
yes,
Um, but there are some pieces in place that work, but there's not a whole lot to work with at the moment, right?
yeah,
I mean, you can only shoot rats and mine rocks for so long before you get bored of it. And I can never understand how people can, go around high sec, shooting rats and mining rocks
no idea.
for
I
months.
can't relate either. Let me pause you there. Let's not go down the rabbit hole of the game mechanics, the skeleton, because I have plenty of choice words for NetEase and CCP. Saipak, how did you get wrangled in? So Max just gave us the story of the new leadership having to take over Lost before you guys were going to go to high sec and die horrible, terrible, suicide-induced death in high sec. How did you get wrangled in? Were you already corporate leadership, or what happened?
Well, I started in the Australian corp, thinking that they're in the same time zone, so it might make a lot of sense. And that really didn't work out. Like nothing really happened with the leadership there. And I joined Lost, and I joined basically just as literally the poop hit the fan, and you swear here, so yeah, the shit hit the fan.
Yeah, you can say
And
what you want to on this show.
yeah, perfect. And I sort of just saw the aftermath of people being devastated and crap happening everywhere, and the reforming then happened pretty quickly. And I think I was definitely ready and happy to go down to nullsec and really wanted to do some PvP and just experience a bit more of what the game has to offer. And we were just a bunch of pilots that said, let's do it together then and reform. And it was just, okay, who's interested in doing something? I'm like, okay, well, I've done this before. I've played many other games and usually had some sort of leadership positions in various games, and said, well, I'm good with talking to people. I'm a psychologist. I can do this, sure. And yeah, ended up Max doing a fantastic job finding a new home for us and finding an alliance. And then it's just yeah, if I see work somewhere, then I usually do it, and happy to help others. And Max definitely needed help, and the corp needed help, and then it just grew bigger and bigger. And then you just realize, oh, that alliance needs help. There's a lot of work, a lot of people that are putting a lot of their hearts and their souls in it, and they can definitely use a hand. And you start helping more, and all of a sudden there's like, do you want to join some diplomacy talks? You seem to be doing okay in that. Yeah, why not? And now I'm, I guess, assisting Mama with absorbing as many corporations as possible and growing as quickly as big as possible. And yeah, it's been a fun ride so far, and really enjoying it, having a
Yeah,
good time with it.
and that's a good segue into really our first actual topic, which is the Genesis Federation Mega Stonks Alliance confirmed. We have now spent more ISK generating, I believe we're at 7 alliances, so 7 billion ISK have been spent. It's billions and billions of ISK. We've spent billions of ISK now, more than most groups in the game have spent on any warfare they've ever done. We've spent that in administrative fees alone for what is now nearly 6,000 characters. So even if you were to take those 6,000 and say that only a third of them are actual players, we're still over 2,000 people in this alliance. No other alliance even has that many general population of total accounts, right? So, um, to both of your points about you just kind of see something that has to be done, I think all three of us on this panel right now are kind of victims of the mentality of, well, let me try to help out. When I joined Echoes and when I joined GenFed, um, I had zero intention of leading. In fact, I was originally an advisor. That was my original title, was advisor and then chief strategist. I was supposed to be the guy in the back room talking to the executors, saying, yeah, as a third person point of view, that sounds good. Or maybe you should take a look at this over here. And then I was like, I'll jump in and I'll FC some fleets now and then. And now I am the senior fleet commander for 2,000 people, and I am the tax collector that everybody hates, and just the list goes on and on. And unfortunately, when you have this many people, you got to have middle management, and middle management needs top management, and kind of the selection process for getting you guys in. Because Max, you mentioned that you guys are newer to the alliance. The selection process for getting the new executors was who is who's spending their entire life right now trying to help the alliance run things, right? So so whoever had no life, we took you both first. So you both happen to be in loss. It's not that we were trying to specifically grab you guys, but Max, you're the German blood runs strong in you. You have these amazing organizational skills, and Saipak, your personnel management skills. You fell right into the roles. So Max, go ahead. What we've over the last couple of days, we've done a lot of restructuring. We have, I think, like 8 PowerPoint slides worth of new alliance structuring to get new officers into billets to manage these thousands of people. So, Max, as you assume your executor role, what areas are you overseeing as an executor?
Well, it's going to be to be to be blunt, it's going to be mostly firefighting initially, because as the organization grows, so grows the potential of conflict. and people butt heads about all kinds of things. Especially if they're living in they're sharing the same space. And we're sharing the space not just with the occasional red visitor. If the red visitors stop showing up, we get mining ships idling in belts, not preventing the respawning of belts. We get people getting into arguments about who came to a dead space first and who should have the dips on it. It's all these kind of little conflicts, but also when a new corporation joins, there's a vetting process. But obviously, with so many corporations and so many individuals, not always are you able to identify if someone has had a previous bad history. And um, the thing is, 99% of people are are really great people, but as you know, every now and then there's a bad apple. And the impact that few people, who are a little bit, off the rails can have on, even a large group of people is disproportionately high. And if you
Sure.
allow yourself to be dragged down, by shit talking and negativity and toxicity, it can spiral down very quickly. So you have to put in some very quick measures to catch this kind of toxicity and try to mediate between conflicting parties and make sure that people are aligned with the vision of the alliance, right? Because another thing is when people come in and they're very ambitious and they have like their own vision of what the alliance should be, and then they speak up, they demand responsibility because they think they can handle certain things. But it actually, slightly conflicts with the alliance vision.
Sure.
That these situations are extremely dangerous because, it can lead to them being dissatisfied with the alliance because they think the alliance is not following, their suggestions. And then when people start, rambling about the alliance in the background and they're finding like-minded people, all of a sudden you have a situation where, an alliance can break apart. There can be like a schism. Like, there's a thing with any sufficiently large organization at some point will face the threat of like separating in two because people just work that way, right? People are bad with aligning with bigger organizations.
Sure.
They're better with aligning with smaller groups.
Absolutely.
So you have to make sure that every single person is aligned, that their concerns are heard. And I think with our leadership, especially with Mama, I think the notion is, and everyone in Genesis will agree to this, that she has an open ear for literally everyone and everything. It's actually amazing, and it's what's got me personally involved with the alliance, and I'm probably Cypok as well.
Yeah, and I want SIPOC to speak on this as well. One of the to your point about the people who may cause rifts or problems, there's the idea of economies of scale, right? And it also applies to social situations. If you have 100 people in a group, and then one person is what you mentioned, the bad apple, right? You can easier deal with the one instance. But what happens is when you scale that up, now you've got 1,000 people, now you've got 10 bad apples. Well, 10 just at face value is larger. It appears to be larger. And it's always the case in social situations that the loud minority gets the attention, right? So if the loud minority is also the bad apple, then what you have is you've gone from one person mouthing off, doing something inappropriate, to now you've got 10. Even though it's 99% positive, your 1% is in actual number sense larger, and it's what gets noticed. Then people start seeing that. So that's a lot of definitely a lot of the executors responsibility there. SIPOC, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the sort of the structures that we need to put in place and have in place and need to expand on, and that's I think what we worked on the last couple of days as well in terms of putting structures in place, putting the right people in place. is really important. And it's hard as we scale up and as Mama as the space tyrant grabs all these other corporations to come in and alliances. She's not happy with just recruiting corporations anymore. It's got to be whole alliances
Now
so
it's
that we
entire alliances. I know. Yeah.
yeah yeah
It's the
and
worst.
so as we do that, then we have to make sure that we can scale that up, and we can still get everybody in a position where they feel like they're being heard, and also empower people so that they can make decisions and really make sure that everybody's on the same page. And in that case, for us, a good way to do that is to really empower our corporation leaders, their XOs, their directors, to communicate rules, to arbitrate, and so on. There's only so many things we can do, and especially sort of at the executive level, surely if things bubble up and are really important and there's dynamics at play, we have to arbitrate there, and that's what Max is doing. That's what I see as my job as well. The cool thing about it is also we basically I think most people in the alliance still think we're the same person because Max goes to bed, I get up,
Well,
and we
as,
have a lot of and vice versa, and we have a lot of I think a lot of overlap in sort of the responsibilities that we have as well.
yeah, so
But
as everybody can see, Cypok and Max are in fact two different individuals. It is not a German engineered android on 24 hours a day.
correct. Yeah, but it's really making sure that the structures are in place. Corporation leaders know how to deal with situations. Rules are clear, but rules are not too complicated, and we're really sort of trying to reshape all of that. And then at the same time, also, and I think we had conversations with Mama and with you about this as well. Is it's good to have all these structures in place, but people still need to be able to have the feeling that they can communicate with their leaders, and we
Absolutely.
all have an open door. And I think that's what all of us are trying. We really try to make ourselves available. We hang out just in normal chat rooms with music bots in there and all of that. And people gather up and we listen to music together, chat, and they come with questions, and yeah, they come with their problems, and that's fine, and we solve them. And I think that's what makes us really a cool group. And not once have I had the feeling in those weeks that we've been here that that leadership has not taken the time to really hear you out or to really address something, and that's amazing for a group of that size. And that's been really an amazing experience, and that's why I didn't really hesitate to say, yeah, I'm happy to help and I'm happy to step into that role, and let's do all of this together.
So we're going to talk about a couple more of the structures that we're putting in place. I want to start with a shout out to two different groups. Shout out to PPU, Merlin and Fanan specifically. They had previously brought up the idea of some kind of a middle management council, some kind of group to help make decisions, and we were working towards an idea for that, and it hadn't been fleshed out. And then the alliance exploded, and we realized that 1,000 people, maybe a council of CEOs and really prominent directors could have probably handled this. Now that we're at thousands and thousands of people, it's not even practical for even a council to handle it. So now we're working on these individual departments, and then the second shout out there leads me into Kettlebell. Kettlebell came up with some of the original concepts, just off the cuff. He was like, "What if we had this department here, this department here?" And at the same time, he was volunteering and he started working his ratting department. So what Kettlebell has been doing, and a single example of something that facilitates alliance-wide success. Kettlebell has a small team of individuals who scan all of our space. They will spread out and they will check all of the systems in our space to see where our bases are at, what level our anomaly bases are at. They know if they're getting too high, so the base needs to be destroyed. They're also providing intel if enemies are going in there. They might catch the enemies to try to kill them before they kill the base, right? So you can't be everywhere at once. The enemies can do a lot of damage, but it's essentially like cultivating agriculture. You're tending to the crops, and that's allowing people to do a lot of stuff. And that's just one job, out of many. And another one that both of you mentioned is the conflict resolution, which actually is going to lead into our Everything is Stupid segment of the week, believe it or not. So this week, we had to take a hard look at mining. And as much as it pains me to talk about mining because I despise anything to do with industry and the like, mining is something that keeps the resources coming in, right? It's a necessary part of an alliance. And what we're finding is there are people, with our size. This goes back to the economies of scale. With our size, there are so many miners that you now have a more raw total of people who go AFK in belts and they're free kills. But worse, you get people, as one of you already mentioned, staying in a belt. The belt is exhausted and they stay AFK so the belt doesn't respawn, right? And this is a huge issue when you've got thousands of people trying to work through these resources and now somebody's holding up the spawn so it can't respawn, right? So to fix that, we have a mining AFK channel on the Discord as part of our early level initiative where we post somebody a screenshot and tag their corporation leadership and say, hey, Saipak is here and he's sleeping in the belt. Can you please get a hold of him or do something, right? Uh, and then we've also got a mining coordination channel to hopefully allow people to group up and do a little bit of safety. Now, having said all that, that is what brings me to this week's Everything is Stupid, in which we're going to talk about an old friend of ours who seems to have room temperature IQ. Oh, 1 second. Cool. Okay. Space Taco Taco is the subject of this week's discussion. Space Taco Taco, also known as Space Taco, is a player in OG Alliance, Old Terra Alliance. And like many of our adversaries, he has an alt account in the GenFed Discord. And he creeps on our Discord and he has his basic access and he takes screenshots of really nefarious stuff that we do, like chat and use the English language. Now, some of our viewers may remember Space Taco Taco from a few episodes ago, in which he pretended to be an actual full-time Genesis pilot. And he posted on Reddit making some insane contentions, such as we don't have ship doctrines, we charge corporations 20 mil ISK to join the alliance, and just other idiotic claims that anyone with two brain cells to rub together would know that that's just not correct. Now, this week, Taco took it upon himself to make another post, and the post is titled GenFed is losing FC. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this up on the screen here. So here we go. GenFed is losing FCs, and it says the time to attack is now, and AFK minor policy for the doubters. Okay. Now, if you were to take the time, and I'm not going to waste your time reading off all these comments, but you can go check out the post. I'll slow scroll a little bit. What you might notice is nowhere in here does it have anything to do with FCs at all. In fact, looking at this, nobody talking in the mining coordination channel is an FC. So it's super confusing. Maybe Borg here, Borg James Cook, junior AFC, JFC tag. So a junior JFC, but he's asking somebody about reprocessing ore. It has nothing to do with leaving the alliance. And then all the way down here at the bottom, we get to Mama's post about the AFK miner channel, which I was just talking about. And it also doesn't say anything about FCs leaving the alliance. So while this isn't the most exciting Everything is Stupid that we've had, it is one of the more confusing ones because, again, there's nothing in there about mining FCs or FCs leaving the alliance. So I'm just confused, right? So I encourage everybody to go take a look on Reddit. It's a very confusing post. There's actually comments from people asking him what he's talking about. But it again goes to show that, alliances of our size, this is the kind of outsized attention we generate in which our adversaries are just making random smear posts that don't make any sense. So yeah, as a few people in the chat are saying, yeah, it's definitely stupid. Yes, super confusing. So I guess that's a good segue then to ask, what are you guys' thoughts on how we deal with these disgruntled inside employees who are then saying how terrible things are? Because he's a member in some way or another.
How are we dealing with them? Well, Cyborg, you go ahead.
We feed them to the lemurs, I'd say.
That's
And yeah, that's probably the most appropriate way. And otherwise, just ignore sad individual.
yeah.
Too bad.
I didn't even comment. Sometimes I'll comment on them and ask them what they're talking about, but I couldn't even bring myself to comment because I was just it was definitely confusing. Hey, Ubinax rating with a party of 12. Party of 12. Somebody get over there and get them some appetizers and fresh drinks. Welcome to the stream, guys. If you're just joining us, we're sitting here discussing how a mega alliance appeared out of nowhere, and then Psypoc and Max here got drafted into the service of being executors, to which they can help herd the cats. Uh, but before we get on to taking some more of these topics apart, we do have to address to those of us that have just joined the channel. Um, we talked about the mining coordination channel. So does that mean that in GenFed the miners have something to do and that they can make some ISK? Well, if you're a miner, you might be in luck. You like to hack away at asteroids and you skillfully avoid those incompetent space neckbeards like Taco Taco. You can sell your ore to GenFed via the ore buyback program. Let's take a look.
A 60 AU off the Warp Gate path, there's a Kerensky that works more with ore than weaponry. His name is Simple Kerensky, but he's no dummy. He realized long ago the greatest thing he would ever create was his venture. We captured that moment. We run it on a loop through Simple Kerensky's mind, and the chemical it makes his brain secrete we use in our Simple Kerensky mind control chips to keep people mining ore. Come home to the flavor of your own completion. Come home to Simple Kerensky and the Genesis Ore Buyback Program.
All right, and we are back. So there you go. Grab some delicious, simple Kerensky mind control chips and sell your ore back to the Alliance. We need your ore. We'll reprocess it. We'll sell it out to those industrial guys, and we will get more ships out on the battlefield. Okay, so let's talk about the differences that you guys have already had to encounter in your short time span of saving a corporation from falling apart uh, to now helping run an alliance. So, what are your major differences? What are the major or what are the similarities that you guys have already seen?
Saipo, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I'd say differences from corporation level to alliance level. You mean?
Yeah, other than the scale, right?
Right. I think it's just the levels of well, it is again scale, but levels of complexity. But then because you're not just yes, as a corporation, you really have to think about how you're dealing with your neighbors. But here we're really as I sort of put my nose and my my eyes into the diplomacy department, really trying to figure it out and really trying to look at the how we're dealing with all of these different parties. That is a completely different ballpark, and it is not it has nothing to do with scale. It is just a completely different beast, and that also means, and I really admire that about GenFed in general, but Mama Source specifically, how she manages all the different cultures, languages, interpreters for all these different languages, and really thinking about the big plan and where do we want to go, how do we deal with these parties, and there's lots of different cultures. They just not just play the game differently, they're completely thinking differently about the approach of how we play Eve Echoes, or how we deal with each other, and how we defend our space, and how we do everything basically. And in order to understand that, you really gotta think beyond your box and your comfort zone, and be open for other languages, other cultures, and I think that's brilliant. I love it, and that's why I think I'm volunteering for diplomacy as well. I've had really great conversations onboarding corporations already, and I'm helping Momosaurus in that regard and driving you even more crazy, Kerensky, by adding more people and more corporations to the crew. And it's been fun. It's been really fun, and I think that's one of the biggest differences for me, because really, as a individual corporation, the best thing and the one thing you usually do in terms of diplomacy is looking at your neighbors and not getting squashed, and then really looking for an alliance. And once you get there, then the whole world opens up, and you're thinking not just about your region, but you're thinking about the geopolitical space all around.
And I think a big one for you as you go into the diplomacy side of things. Obviously, our allies right on our border is DP Alliance, and they are probably 95 to 99% Chinese speaking, and many of them do not speak English at all. So when you talk about the greater sphere and how diplomacy and our in our individual alliance actions, it's it's no longer a case, to use your corporation example, it's no longer a case if a lost pilot does something to irritate the neighbors, and now the neighbors are mad at a 90, 100 man corporation. Now, one person's actions can reflect on thousands of individuals, right? And we've already seen our enemies try to take advantage of this. Um, Nobody in this game is who operates in nullsec and has any sense of the scale of alliances. Nobody is surprised by blue on blue conflict. The setting standings in the game have some issues. They're a little difficult to manage, right? They're very limited. Goes into what Max was saying earlier about it being a skeleton of a game. The social system is shit. It really is, and we can talk about that more. But DP is a massive alliance. And as they expand, as we expand, we're constantly having to update the diplomacy tab. And inevitably, what happens is there's a standings mix match and somebody gets shot down. We probably have a small ship or two get shot down every 24 hours. And we both understand, both leadership teams understand it happens, and reparations are always paid both directions. But we see our adversaries trying to take advantage of this. Ragnar, who apparently came back from EVE Online, he probably got killed there and decided that he was going to rage quit the game that he rage quit to go to. So now he's back. So he's just going to rage he's going to ping pong rage quit back and forth. He's back now, and he contacted DP leadership to tell them, see, GenFed is attacking you. I told you they would, because there was a blue on blue incident, which, again, it happens both ways because of the scale of the alliances. So as part of the diplomacy team, how do you handle that? What role do you have in that?
And that specific example, I usually ping Momosaurus Rex, and she takes care of it. No,
that sounds like cheating.
Yeah, pretty much. No, I think we have sort of clear-cut responsibilities. So obviously, as she says, the buck stops with her with those kind of decisions. But at the same time, also, it's the connections to the Chinese community that, and we have the same for the Russian community and for Koreans, for all these different groups. And it's really a matter of who's best suited for communicating with those groups. And in terms of Chinese, I absolutely refer to her and the people that she also has that are obviously not on Discord, but on various other platforms that are allowed in China. So that's something that is beyond the scope of, or beyond the things that I deal with. But at the same time, also, I'm usually happy to facilitate and to try to find the right people to speak to, and that's usually a big part of it. Seeing who's the interpreter that's online right now, who can we speak to, so that communication is possible at all. To even figure out, okay, there was an incident, what happened, how serious is it, and those kind of things. You really need to have good structures for it and good connections.
Sure,
especially with those communities.
Max? I'd like to go on record with a prediction. Once sovereignty comes, there will be a few people in the Western world who will be surprised by how many systems and regions will be taken by Chinese entities that maybe you were entirely unaware of, and people will realize what potential the Chinese community in this game has. Obviously, there's there's all these claims of botting operations and what have you. Some may be unfounded, some may be founded. I don't know. I'm not going to judge because I don't have evidence. But you better, if you are an alliance leader who wants to look at SOF at some point, you better become very aware of Chinese operations in this game. Otherwise, there will be a rude awakening.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's interesting, this kind of shows you a contrast. And I will preface this by saying that I'm not intentionally picking on OP4S this time. So this is the first time I've not intentionally picked on them, but I will use them as the example. So when the game started, we had a mutual contact just a couple hours before launch that told us about DP Alliance and where DP was going to go. Um, at the same time, we had done our alliance meeting, and I had given a briefing to the alliance about where we were going to go into Esoteria. And what our enemies did, our OP4S's response was, okay, we're going to take our gaming community, which was a couple thousand people. They assumed maybe 1,000 or so would follow them to Echoes, and we're going to shotgun the original place that we wanted to go to. And then also we're going to go into Esoteria now because that's where Genesis is going to go. And this is because specifically they thought we only had maybe 100 or 200 players. They had no idea the scale of operations we were already working with because just the simple organizational stuff that we did, such as starting a fresh Discord and only inviting the people who were actually active at launch. Like days before launch, we pulled them over. Meanwhile, OP4S had their gaming community Discord, which has people from all over the place. So they had no actual concept of what their manpower would be. We found out DP was wanting to go to Esoteria. We immediately initiated diplomatic relations with them, and we ended up forming a coalition. And part of that discussion was, hey, there's also these other entities, OP4S being one of them, moving into this area. We gave them a little history about our relationship and the betrayal that OP4S had done with us, conspiring against us. And DP said, okay, let's be friends. Mutual time zone protection. You have EU and you have Western, and we have Pacific time zones. And so we just kind of went for it. Now, OP4S, instead of engaging in any meaningful negotiation with them, actually went straight into their space and just started attacking random miners. And they had no idea how large DP was until DP finally got mad and showed up with 300 and some odd pilots to camp their station. Not to attack anything, just to sit on the undock and say, fuck you for killing our miners. Hello, we're DP Alliance, go to hell. And OP4S had no idea what to do. They literally logged off that night because they couldn't leave in their own system because they had poked the hornet's nest and had no idea how big the hornet's nest was, right? And so now they've gotten so desperate that again they've tried multiple times now to convince DP that we're attacking them, and then DP will send us these screenshots. They'll send us like Ragnar's screenshot, and they'll be like, "Is he dumb? Like, does he think that we're stupid and we believe this? Like, really?" And they're also attacking us at the same time. Like, why would we believe them anyway, right? So, I mean, it does show the difference between the structuring and the way that you handle incidents, right? And we're very proactive immediately whenever there's incidents of any kind of blue on blue. So, Cypok, we're definitely glad to have you on the Diplo team. Max, are you relieved that you're not on the Diplo team and that we're going to allow you to do internal structuring and German engineering instead?
No, I'm not.
You're not.
No, actually, I'm very interested in diplomacy and like the geopolitical scale of things. And Cyborg and I, Cyborg mentioned it earlier. We overlap time zone wise, so
because you're the same person. I understand.
The intention is that we'll share some of the load, and while he has more responsibility, obviously on the diplomacy side, I'll dip my toes in there as well, occasionally, and likewise he will be there when I'm not to do my stuff.
Sure, and I would clarify. So there's probably confusion about how the Genesis Federation is structured as an alliance. So we have the current structure, the way it's set up is we have the executor team, and technically the head of the executor team is Mama Rex. So she is, as it's already been said, the buck stops with her. She is the founder of the alliance, and she essentially has her close counsel, advisors, whatever you want to call us. We are the individuals who oversee the master plan, the main heart workings of the alliance, right? So it's myself, it's the two of you, it's Alondria Firestorm, who's in the comments out there eating tacos somewhere. Um, Underneath us, the new structure is the alliance staff, and that's a broad term for key billet holders, whether that is the diplomacy team, the ship replacement team, Kettlebell running the monitoring all of our infrastructure at home, the structure team when sovereignty drops. All of these different pieces fall under. Immediately under that is every single CEO. Every single CEO is vital in this alliance because they are supposed to have the pulse on their corporation, and the alliance cannot function without corporations falling in with the alliance vision, in with the alliance plan, and pursuing that plan. And then, of course, last but not least at all is definitely all of the directors who do the day-to-day operations helping their CEOs, just like SIPOC here assists Max. They tag team their corporation. Every corporation out there has those directors, those senior level officers who are assisting the CEO in the corporate vision and aligning with the alliance vision. So that's the overall hierarchy of how it goes. And as it's already been said, there's definitely an open door policy. I wake up anytime I wake up, there's 20 to 50 messages. Most of them are DMs or mentions. Everything from how do I access the Discord to more complex stuff like I have this ludicrous idea for a Gila doctrine that only costs 3 billion is. Can we field that against the enemy? And then I just quietly close Discord and walk away. But so. Yeah, I think again, it's great to have you guys on the team. Max, now that I know that you want to be involved more with the Diplo side, Mama's gonna watch this, I'm sure, when she wakes up. And so, congratulations, buddy. You probably have another job. Good job. You're gonna need somebody to take over your corporation at some point.
Well, that's the thing, though. Obviously, that is actually a concern, and as many other people will understand who take responsibility on the alliance side, you have to take care of your corp as well. And I'm very glad to say that I have competent people that I can rely on in the corp to handle things, so I can make myself less available there. It was like the initial push, like the first week when we set up and we moved to Esoteria, where literally it was almost a full-time job of running the corp. And now I can really kick back and I don't have to worry about the corp that much anymore. I know it's basically running itself with competent officers, and that's a blessing. It's so good, to over a span of like a little bit of time to find individuals who step up and fill out these positions. And that's the same that happens on alliance level now, where these crucial middle management positions, we will need to fill more of those in the near future when the new structure is really taking shape. And I have no doubt that we will identify people that we might not even be aware of right now, with all the new guys coming on board that will want to step up and take their place. There's one important thing I'd like to mention, that is, you got to be conscious of the aspect of space power, for lack of a better word. Like,
Yeah.
Whenever you take responsibility of other people, there can be this feeling like you have power and control over them, and that can very quickly get to your head, right? And I think we're all very, very aware of this. And I think, to Mama's credit, she is probably the most aware of this. Like, she has this sense for when someone wants to step up just to get their own name out there and to be more important. And that's not what we want, right? We don't want people demand responsibility. Like, that's not going to happen. We want people to step up and to contribute, but we want to have this more through organic means, through ideas, through feedback to the ideas of others, through this kind of interaction and communication. Over time we will see who has the potential, and then we will reach out to you probably, rather than the other way around.
Yeah, and I want to respond to that. I got actually something to say about that. I want to answer a question on the stream. Uh, Vibethia, asking what exactly is the stream. So this is a weekly stream that I do. I'm Kanos Kerensky here in Noir Corporation. I am one of the executors of Genesis Federation. I'm the chief strategist and the senior fleet guy over here. And I'll talk about those roles in just a second. But it's a weekly stream that I do. It's usually, this is going to be a longer stream. It's normally a 30, 45-minute stream where we do a little bit of satire. We shit talk a little bit. We talk about some stuff in the game. We show some interesting screenshots. Every once in a while, I'll do a really horrible impersonation. If you check out last week's episode, I did my best to dishonor Marlon Brando's godfather. And yes, we absolutely are recruiting. How big are we? My corporation, which I'm going to talk about in just a second, is about 30 guys. The Alliance is somewhere around 6,000 members. So that's actually what this stream is about, is the massive scale that this Alliance has come up to. We're talking about how we manage an alliance of this scale. Yeah, so Max, you did have somebody in here. Let me scroll back up. Moreland says, he says we are competent, and he says confused sound. So apparently you've got a couple of your German robots in the stream, and they're very confused that you would call them competent. So that's, I mean, shout out to them then. Appreciate you guys watching. Now, to comment on what Max was saying about people wanting power because they think that an alliance level position gives power, it absolutely does not, right? I would have much more game time if I was not doing these roles. And part of the trade-off of me doing the roles is I get to give myself a cool title to make myself feel better about the amount of bullshit I do. So I get to call myself chief strategist, and what that actually means is person who deals with bullshit and has to plan lots of stuff. And then I call myself senior fleet commander because I am the top guy on the ladder. But that means person who has to manage all of the lemmings in the fleet so that stupid shit doesn't happen and we don't all die in a fire. So really, when it comes to the leadership at the alliance level, it's not about power. Like it's not. You don't get power. None of us think that the game is equating to real life. Although obviously we do hurt some feelings occasionally, maybe unintentionally, maybe intentionally. Um, it's pixel spaceships at the end of the day, and it's about people, and it's about providing a gaming experience. And to that end, Max, as you're talking about having to find more competent officers to help out with your corporation, I actually did the opposite. I have always run a corporation back since 2005 EVE Online into Nova Empire. I ran a alliance and was a server commander there. And then Second Galaxy, I ran a corporation and Noir Alliance in the game. And when I joined Echoes, I had zero intention of running anything, much like the two of you. I decided I kind of wanted a corporation. I wanted to bring back my corporation. So it was just myself, right? So when we started the game, Noir was the ninth corporation built in the game. So I was in the top 10, which was really cool for being by myself. And then we just recruited everybody. Anybody was allowed to join. And then we filtered them to other quests. We pushed everybody out. Now that I've been able to help shape where the alliance is at, I've got people like you guys stepping up so that you're taking on these roles. Things are settled. We've got great CEOs out there doing a lot of the lifting for us. Now I get to go the other direction. I get to start building up my corporation. So my corporation is now recruiting because now I can actually focus on it a little bit now that the alliance stuff is where it needs to be, right? So I guess I'll give you guys a few final thoughts on the alliance side of things because I do want to move into and talk about the state of the game and mechanics. I want to bitch a little bit. So if either of you have any more comments on the alliance structure and where the alliance is going.
Max,
Yeah,
you first.
I was just going to say, if you're watching the stream and you have any questions, now's your chance to type them in before Kano starts ranting about the game. I mean, you can ask questions anytime later.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. Yeah, we'll take questions as I see them. Mostly it's just banter right now. A lot of people subscribing. Guys, thanks for subscribing to the channel. Really appreciate it. Cypok, what do you got for us?
Not much really. I really can just reiterate what a positive experience it was, and I think there's a lot of shit talk about us out there on the web and things, and um, it's funny to look at that and then to go into the Discord and to deal with the people and really see a lot of friendly faces everywhere, and it's quite interesting to me, and I really. I have a couple of rules. One of them is I'm never going to get a Reddit account. I just don't. I don't understand all that crap. Which is probably a bit odd, given that I'm going to be working in diplomacy. But at the same time, also, no, I cannot see all the negativity. Sure, as Max mentioned, bad apples and all.
If you want to have a really good time, go on Facebook.
Yeah. I have ex-girlfriends on Facebook who continuously pull up stuff from Second Galaxy over a year ago and still try to trash me over Second Galaxy. And I'm glad you guys brought up, things are, what gets put on social media is always selective, right? And I tell this to people all the time because we see kill mails get posted and it'll be like, oh, look, the enemy killed this guy in a worm and it cost 1.3 bill. And I'm like, yeah, that sucks that we lost the worm, but at the same time, nobody's asking the other side of that story in which the worm pilot killed billions and billions and billions of ISK, and he's already got another one to replace it, right? So the same thing applies to the propaganda side of things, right? You'd be a fool to think that if you take a single screenshot and throw it up on Facebook and say, one of the common ones is like, if I call somebody an idiot, and that's like super toxic, evil behavior. And they're like, look at how evil they are. This is all the people in GenFed. Like, okay, nobody actually believes that. The one clip of somebody saying something put on social media does not reflect what is actually going on inside the alliance. And every single person who joins us, every corporation who joins us says the same thing. They're like, man, you guys got like a group of like 20 people who really hate you and just say the most ridiculous shit. And as soon as we're in the alliance, everything is great, And people watch the stream, and I appreciate all of our viewers, but a lot of them conflate the appearance on the stream with who I am the rest of the time, right? So there's something to be said about being a media person or a provocateur in the nature of this show. There's a certain switch you flip, right? So I can get on here and be super flippant, and I can say all kinds of crazy stuff. Um, I can be the bad cop in the alliance whenever there's a dispute going on and everybody's trying to be nice on one side, and I come in with the hammer on the other side, and I'm like, well, here's your other fucking option. We can just space you and blow your shit up. How about that, right? And then everybody else is like, or you could just, we could just all say sorry, and then it all works out, right? So yeah, there's definitely something to be said about that. And people that take themselves too seriously and think everything they see on the media side of things is the truth. Just don't take it so seriously, right?
No, I mean, it's a game after all, right? It's good to keep that in mind. Even if lots and lots of actual real people are involved, real people and, space tyrant personas and, all that, it's still a game at the end of the day, and you're not too important, and actually all the trolling out there, all the propaganda, that's part of the game, and I mostly enjoy it, to be honest. Mm-hmm. It's like I can savor like a good troll, a good troll post.
Yeah.
That has a certain flavor to it, and it makes for a good chuckle, but it also keeps us relevant, right? If there's people out there who have nothing better to do than to shitpost about us, that keeps us very relevant. People know about us, mm-hmm. And even if they have like bad expectations based on what trolls have been saying, as soon as they get in contact with us, these bad expectations can be sort of reset, and they can be surprised how awesome we actually are, and that happens occasionally, as you mentioned. And I got in touch with Genesis because there was shit talking going on previously. There was an incident, as you know, with Doomsy and what happened there. Had that not happened, I may not have found Genesis, right? So I enjoy the Reddit stuff. Keep it going, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I get people messaging every time the stream is over. People will message asking to join. You've got people in the stream right now asking to join. Now, this is obviously a really mild episode, and it's an interview format. This is not me being flippant and trolling. But again, it comes down to not taking yourself seriously, knowing when to apply it. Like the the persona that gets put on the stream is literally here for the stream, right? And I won't name the individual, but there was a pilot earlier in a fleet. I logged in and took over a fleet because another FC was having to log off because it was really late for him. And this guy messaged me, he goes, "Oh, thank God you're FCing. I really prefer your FCing because you're just so chill and calm and there's never any panic, right?" So it's like the people see me on the stream cursing people out and just being a jackass, and then I go into fleet commander mode and it's okay, everyone align to the gate. Good, align to the gate. Okay, good. Okay, this is the
Don't
primary.
jump.
Yeah, do not say the J word, right? And it's just it's straight cut, right? So it's all about the performance. It's all about not taking yourself too seriously. But everybody's gonna forget that by next week's episode when I do something absolutely ridiculous, right? So yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the state of the game. I don't even know where to start on this. Maybe some of our viewers have some things to talk about in the chat. Max, do you you sort of like raising your hand there? Did you have some SciPoc? Do you have a current thing of the state of the game that just grinds your gears?
Well, I think what causes me the most work is standings bugs and bloody interface just not showing up red or blue when it should be. It's just, I mean, that's such a basic feature that's just killing me or killing all of us, quite literally.
Literally killing us. Because my favorite thing as an
Yep.
FC is when I say fleet undock, 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 everyone undock, undock, and then I look and I see one of my own corporation members is neutral on my overview. I'm like, what the fuck is this? NetEase, come on! You have one job with the standings. Make them work.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most frustrating things. And I think apart from that, it's really just like basic interface things for managing corporations, alliances. I mean, we see it. We basically on some days, Mama is building a new alliance today. She's going to build. I'm pretty sure she's going to build another one tomorrow. I mean, come on, 10 corporations per alliance. It's just ridiculous. And then even announcing, okay, this big update, and whenever it comes November, we're going to have 30. We're
Ooh,
still going to need
30.
then 3, 4, 5 alliances by then if we keep growing. Come on, just be reasonable and just make this a little bit easier. It's not that hard. Not these.
What is interesting about that to me is unlike the ships where they're trying to rebalance things because they're trying to make it work differently for a mobile, the social aspects, the scale of things, specifically like the standings and the corp sizes, there's a fucking blueprint for that. It's been around for 2 decades. It's called EVE Online. Look at the goddamn format that already exists. Just do that. It works. Just do that.
I think they may have been wary of the sort of mega alliances and coalitions dominating EVE Online for years, and maybe they their idea was, let's make it complex and complicated to actually build large organizations in the game. But the thing is, people will find a way anyway, right? And they will just deal with whatever you put in their way. They'll just deal with it. They'll be disgruntled about it, but they still find a way to organize. You can't stop them. There's no way. And that's the thing. So you better give them some tools to you know to make their lives easier. Even you can control it, right? You can make things expensive. You can make scaling up an operation like really expensive, and that's fine, right? I don't have a problem with like the 1 billion alliance thing, right? But you got to give them some tools. And what my personal pet peeve is the lack of an API. By API, for those unaware, I mean the ability to get information out of the game, from outside of the game, like information about, let's say, kill mails, about corporations and alliances in the game, and what they're, how many members they have. And if you look at EVE Online, there's so much you can learn about the game even from outside. And Google EVE soft map, the sovereignty map, and see how how beautiful it is to follow the development of the geopolitical landscape in EVE over time. Like, there's some beautiful videos on YouTube how the landscape changed over the years. You see power blocks coming up and going down, and it's amazing. And all of that would not be possible without an API, right? Without this interface. And we have nothing at the moment. So it's not just for people who want to look at a geopolitical game. It's also a part of player engagement when they can see their own kill mails on a kill board, right? Right now, we were forced to screenshot our kills and then post them on Discord.
And I was gonna mention that. So I'm curious for both of you. If API came out, what is your the top of your wish list for a tool based on API? And mine, as the fleet commander and the propaganda asshole, mine is definitely the kill board, so that I can stop having to tally it up in Excel. I just want to be able to post the battle report and do the Nickelback look at this photograph every time the enemy says that they won when they actually died in a dumpster fire. So, SciPoc, API comes out, if it ever comes out, number one tool, what would you want?
Well, I build tools and software for a living in my real job, and I would start with a interactive map, specifically for our alliance space. So what's going on there, and again, it really depends on what kind of information we would have access to. But to really map traffic, to map all the anomalies, all the things that are gathered, or that basically make it a really good interactive interface for our members, for our leadership, to really plan and to really see what's going on in our space, where people get killed, and integrate all of that kind of stuff. And obviously, the more information is available, the better the tool, the better you can really filter things and do stuff. So yeah, that would be me.
Now, I'm going to get to Max in just a second and hear Max's thoughts on this. But first, SciPoc just mentioned getting killed, and if you get killed in a fleet operation, you might be wondering how you can get your ship replaced. Now, insurance might fail you, but the Genesis Federation ship replacement program will not. For those of you joining the channel now for the first time, that's right, there is a ship replacement program here in Genesis. If you are in an Alliance operation and die in a dumpster fire, we will take care of you. Let's take a look.
There's a Kerensky that held a fleet hostage after murdering his scouts and several fleet members. The fleet was made of noobs, flavored with stupidity and lemmings. He made us all take a look at our fleet composition, and in the bargain, he got a taste of real freedom. No more fleet ops. We captured that taste, and we keep giving it to him so he can give it right back to you in every single Kerensky Fleet Ops Mind Control chip selects. Come home to the unique flavor of shattering the bonds of teaming up with noobs. Come home to Genesis Fleet Ops.
All right, and we are back. So there you go, Mind Control Chip Select. Go ahead and join up in the fleet and help me herd the lemmings and the lemurs. Okay, so to our question, Max, one tool API comes out. What is your top tool?
I'm going to be very basic. What I'd like to see as a sort of corp leader is the ability to just pull my members and see their. Well, it's really the most basic thing, right? I want to see their history, like where are they coming from previously, and I want to see how long have they been with the corp, and like the same on an alliance level, like all the corps, all their previous histories. Right now in the game, you can't even click on the items. Like when you pull up an alliance in the corps, you think that information would be there, but it's even, you can't even get to it. So sometimes you'd like to know if that corps you're just hiring like has a certain history, or if there's individuals within that corps. Like we had an actual severe incident, and shout out to the other German corps that we got on board. But there were a couple of folks in there that some of us had some previous interaction with that was less pleasant, let's put it that way. And we had to it took some real effort and to sort it out. The diplomat, it wasn't easy.
Right.
And having the ability through an API to just pull up a corp and look at their their members like that and their history would have saved a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
not actually, but it's good to be able to vet and background check things.
Yeah, and that same type of tool, being able to look at people that and their history, that's something that you use for Discord security. There's so many different things that feed into that specific topic of security and backgrounds. And to your point about the menus come up and you can't actually click things because they don't actually open up, it's almost insulting that there are things that should be menus and should be sensitized, and you hover over it and it's nothing. It's a picture, and nothing happens, and it's almost insulting.
Yeah, it's like it builds the expectation, because in other areas it works that way. You click on it or tap on it and it opens, and then there it doesn't. So it seems to me like almost it's an incomplete design, right? It was supposed to work that way, but they just never got around to actually building it or finishing it, which brings me back to the skeleton part. And I'm curious, to see where the game is going to go overall, because when they add more complexity to it, and this is actually, this I'd be interested to hear your viewpoint on this kind of when soft is added, when bubbles are coming. Like, let's say, I think the two are connected, because when you have sovereignty, you need to have the ability to lock down your space. So you need bubbles. But can you have bubbles without bookmarks, right? And so one thing leads to another, and there's a bunch of features all of a sudden that you have to introduce to your game that may cause controversy on Reddit. And that we all know the controversy about the changes to the autopilot warping around. So are they first, is NetEase capable of handling that controversy and pushing through a vision that they've already laid out in their roadmap? And second, will they be able to implement all these more complex features without breaking the game and without just doing more bare bones stuff that's not fleshed out and finished?
One of the bare bones things that I would comment first before I try to answer your question, a good example is the covert ops cruisers, in which they are specifically bonus to use a type of electronic warfare, and the module for electronic warfare is not in the game. It just doesn't exist, right? Um, so yeah, I think your point about the bookmarks is massive. And for those of our viewers who are not EVE Online veterans and are new here, joining us with EVE Echoes, we are talking about a warp disruption sphere. And these, in traditional sense, come in two forms. They come in a ship deployable form, whether that is a dropped bubble. So in EVE Online, a destroyer, a special type of destroyer, would drop this sphere. So the sphere pops up. Anything inside the sphere is jammed from warping. It can't get away. The other version of this, they're called interdictors, by the way. The other version of this is a heavy interdictor. It's a cruiser platform that emits the sphere from the ship. So these are both ship side, but one drops it and it's a permanent piece in space, and then it times out, disappears. The other one is a module that expands a sphere, and you have to kill the ship to get rid of it. Now, the other version are anchorable ones, and this is what Max is alluding to, is anchorable structures that are warp disruption spheres. And for example, one of the things that we would do in nullsec to protect our home is what you call a drag bubble. A drag bubble works like this. If I come into a Stargate at point A and point B is another Stargate here, I'm warping from A to B. What I would do is I would put a warp disruption sphere behind the gate. So the ship is coming out of warp, he gets snared and pulled over into the warp disruption sphere, and then a home defense fleet or some campers are going to tear him up. It also causes a huge pain for big fleets moving around, because a big fleet, you get 100 battleships or battle cruisers, they come in, they warp, and they get pulled into this disruption bubble, and now they have to go all the way back to the gate, or they have to warp to a ping above the gate and back down. What Max is talking about bookmarks is the idea that you can go to an area of space and you can select an option on your ship menu that creates literally a waypoint. They call them bookmarks, and it's a point in space. Now, from that point in space, when you enter that system, you can select on your warp menu to go to that bookmark. So one of the things that would happen in sovereign space is we set up the warp disruption sphere that I described, and we, the Allied forces, would have these bookmarks preset. So when we leave our station and we're going to go out of the system, we don't fly into our own bubble like a bunch of idiots and have to go back. Instead, we've got these bookmarks that we gave to everybody. We messaged them out, and we can warp directly to the bookmark and then down to the gate and leave system, right? So it's an extra step, but you're not getting sucked into the bubble. So, Max, to answer your question, I don't have confidence they're going to be able to do it. I honestly don't. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to phase in bubbles. And I think it's the smart way to do it, because I don't think they're prepared to do it the big way. I think they're going to put in interdictor destroyers. And so there's going to be short fuse timed warp disruption bubbles. And I do mean short fuse. Like, I'm thinking 15 or 20 seconds, because they have already shown the inclination to making this game as mobile friendly and as casual friendly as possible. They do not want the ability to lock down a system entirely so people can't escape until at least there's bookmarks. Once there's bookmarks, they're probably going to allow it. But let's face it, they don't have a directional scan, so I cannot point my ship in a direction and scan space and see what ships are in that direction. I can't do that. There's no scan probe, so that I can deploy probes in the system and do a full, basically like, think of it as like, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, think of it as a radar or a sonar that is pinging out. These little sensor buoys go out in the solar system. You can put them where you want in the system, and then they ping an area and they locate ships. None of that exists yet. So there's not a good way to avoid an anchorable bubble. So I mean, I guess the short answer is they would fucking break it if they tried. I think it's going to be destroyers to start off with. So
I have some real concern, and I think mostly in the way they are planning to go forward. Not exactly where exactly they're going, but how to figure out where to go. And the main concern mostly comes from how they did their survey and the vote that they did on what should we do with gates and with autopilot travel. And having worked in that industry, collecting data and analyzing it, I feel using a platform to gauge the user opinion, the player opinion is good, is okay, but it's such a biased way, and you definitely have to use a lot of different data sources. So you can use the forums, you can use Discord, things like that, but it's only a small fraction of the whole player base. So if they're not heavily using data analytics and really like drilling down and really figuring out how many people are dying right now compared to before, when they introduced the new mechanics of how to autopilot, and then how many of these players actually left, how many players got popped, never logged back in, all these things they need to consider. And then there should be much more analytics and opportunities to give feedback, not through asking like outside of the game and saying, hey, come to this forum and give your opinion, but rather after the new player experience, at various parts of the tutorial, give us your quick feedback. And then combined with like retention numbers, you can then see, okay, what's going well, what's not going well. And then I think there's also a bit of a language barrier, I have the feeling. Whenever I see any posts from them, whenever I see like those three options that we had to select the way forward for gates, that was unfortunately so confused, and like the language was not concise at all. And when you're putting out a survey, whatever, if it's just 3 choices, it has to be very precise and very concise in order to get valid data. Because if there's 2 people or 100,000 people reading this survey, and they have all these different kinds of interpretations of what this actually means, then obviously the results you get are rubbish. They're no use.
Right. And Saipak, you're correct me here or clarify for me. You're a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I don't remember your actual background.
I'm a psychologist. I have worked clinically in the past, but that's not really what I focus on mostly.
Right, right.
Mostly research.
So
researcher, collecting data analytics, stuff like that.
right, and so I'm a psych major doing my PhD, and what you just
Sweet.
brought out about the surveys is something that I brought up to the developers as well when they released this. So they released the survey stuff to the content creators team. So I'm one of the content creators for Eve Echoes, and I'm in this little channel. It's a semi secret cool channel, whatever. They're like, here's the list of 3 things. You guys are allowed to discuss this. We will announce it formally tomorrow, but you guys are free to broadcast this. Go talk to your people about it, but mostly encourage them to vote. And one of the first things I said was, hold on, you're putting out a Google survey that is, first off, not in concise language, so nobody knows the differences between numbers 2 and 3. It's so vague what 2 and 3 options mean. It doesn't really tell us anything. I'm like, you're also putting out a survey that is going to fall victim to the old adage of the squeaky wheel gets the oil, because the people that are going to feel invested in answering the survey are the people who are most outraged about the autopilot, and everybody else who is like, it's fine as it is, are less inclined to vote. Because if the option is stay the same or change, people are inclined to leave it as is if they don't care or they don't have an opinion. The people who are inclined to answer are the people who want something in the here and now. And the other thing that I mentioned when I broadcasted this a few weeks ago was, please, for the love of God, before you vote, make some comments ready to put in there. Make sure you have comments to explain your thoughts on this. Don't just vote, but also think about the second and the third order effects. This is not a solution that's going to be implemented today, so it's not fixing your crying today. This is coming in weeks ahead of when this is likely to change. Inevitably, we end up seeing the gate guns in LoSec turned into Concord gate guns. That was the fix, I guess. I don't know. But the idea of putting out a survey where mostly people who are just mad are going to answer it was the wrong way to go about it. And the way that it was phrased, you could tell they were directly addressing the people who were flaming on social media, the people who were mad. That's who that was addressed to. That's who they were catering to. That makes me worry about where the game goes from here. It's a bad precedent.
Do you think that they may have put this up more as to appease the community, to show them that they're actually listening, that that they're aware that the community is unhappy? So here is your options to actually influence the direction of the game, and now be quiet and happy and play, and wait for us to deliver.
So you're suggesting that it's possible it was to placate them, and then a solution never really comes, or the solution is kind of milquetoast. That's possible.
For all we know, they could. Hopefully, they are doing this the proper way, which is through analytics and analysis, and this is just on the surface to directly address those vocal players, who have to get their feelings out on Reddit.
You might be right. I mean, it might be a little bit of like a placebo, right? So now people are going to calm down and think things are better because of the gate gun change that technically didn't really affect much of anything except for people shooting on gates in LoSec. Otherwise, it didn't change anything. I don't know. It's hard to know if there is some ignorance at work or if they're playing 4D underwater space chess right now. I don't know. I unfortunately have not seen anything to indicate that it is 4D underwater space chess, and I base that on the topics that we're on right now, which is the status of the game, an unfinished game that has a lot of these things that are just completely lacking. And and I'll give you an example of one such thing that is lacking. Um, I cannot create a contract by clicking on a person and just making a contract. I can only do it if I've added them as a contact. So what? Why? Like it saves me an extra 1, 2 seconds to go sift through my contact list, pull somebody up, and create a contract than if I was just to type in the first couple letters of their name and they pull up. Like, what is that really doing for me? It's not a big change. Like, it's such a major oversight of something so simple. I have a hard time believing that they have this super thought out analytical plot going on.
Well, my working theory is that the person responsible for the interface, or at least the logic behind the interface, is really just an intern programmer, and really, or it's quite clear that decisions about the interface are made at a level where most likely a programmer is implementing it.
Yes.
And a programmer is really thinking about, okay, I already have this functionality here, this code, I can apply it here, and we're going to put it right there. That's sort of where it belongs. Yeah, that's fine. Let's put it in. And they test it. It works. You click on the button, it does something. Great.
Right.
But then what do we have? We have a report button at the same spot exactly where there were other buttons before that you would use fairly frequently. And there's no confirmation. You press a button and you just reported somebody for offensive behavior.
For existing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So
You're not the only person to give that theory, and I had said something similar, that I think they have the fucking interns working on the social structure, and then they've got the actual programmers and game designers doing the core parts of the game, such as the actual ship mechanics, which admittedly the ship mechanics work really well, right? The gunnery stuff works pretty well, despite it's got its flaws and stuff, but the social mechanics was clearly like the unpaid intern, like, hey, look at these pictures from EVE Online. Can you make it look sort of like this, and then just do some things, because the functionality is not there. Like you said, the coding piece was probably done so it makes sense internally, but the end user experience, this person has, whoever's coding it has no idea what the end user experience should be, because he's totally off the mark. He's not even in the same ballpark.
Yeah. To be fair, I think the standard UI itself is pretty well done. Like, I was impressed that the complexity of EVE Online, that it was even remotely feasible to put this on a mobile device and still have something playable, right?
Right.
But it immediately leads to questions of scalability. Going back to, for instance, bookmarks.
Yeah.
People who've excessively played EVE, you know how many bookmarks you can have, right? How are you going to manage that on this tiny screen? And you better put some thought into how you integrate those additional UI elements that you don't currently have.
Right.
So it makes sense and it ties in seamlessly with your overall user interface philosophy.
And some of the interface issues, like one of my biggest gripes is the overview, right? Is the overview is atrocious. I hate to say it, but Second Galaxy even did a better job with the overview system. You were able to filter better. I cannot filter out so that it defaults to only enemy ships. Like, I can only set it so where that allies don't show up. I can't make an overview setting that will only display battle cruisers. If I do that, everybody in a battle cruiser, including allies, shows up. It's ridiculous how bad the overview setting, like the filters just do not work.
that's literally just a bug, and I'm not sure why it's not fixed yet, because it's just the wrong connection of an AND or an OR connection
Yes,
between
exactly.
the overlap.
Exactly.
It makes no sense. I think some things are actually what I would probably consider budget things, because how many times you have to query the server for certain things, and or what kind of new variables you introduce, really depends on the server bill for the first couple months. And for a
True.
game where you of that potential scale, and you don't really have an idea of what the retention looks like and how much money is going to come in the first couple of months, I can imagine hopefully that some of those additional things will be put in. And obviously also we want more server performance for large battles, because if you can only go through a gate with 200 people and you have a confrontation between about 1,000, that sucks. But one thing that I don't understand is you cannot name your ships. I have three ships of the same type in your hangar, and I always click the wrong one first. And then I always clicked the wrong one
Yeah.
second, and the third one is a charm. It's like I don't understand.
Yeah, and I mean, there's other things too, right? Like we can make a gripe list all day, but it's like I go to fit my ship and I select a weapon, I apply one weapon, and now the entire list resets. I have to scroll through the list again, grab the weapon, fit, it resets, scroll through. I do that for every fucking module. It's like I never want to fit a ship again, so I just won't undock because I don't want to die and ever have to fit a ship again.
Oh, but I think if we provide feedback like this and we're consistent about it and really point these things out, hopefully, people will notice. And they've shown that sometimes, fortunately and sometimes unfortunately, that they do listen to certain content creators bitching and moaning about stuff. So maybe, hopefully, at some day, if we complain enough about all those things and even provide not just solutions, but at least point out specific things, not just like random game sucks overall, but hey,
Right.
interface, look at this, look at this, look at this.
Yeah, and I've definitely tried to do that in my videos. I've discussed in the past. I gave my feedback on autopilot and some solutions that I thought could have to it. I try to. I mean, I know we're having a little bit of a gripe fest right now, but I do try to give solutions. And you, one example right now, you just pointed out, like the coding side of how the code behind the overview works, right? And that's something that maybe they just need a refresher course on. I don't know. But yeah, I try to not be just the squeaky wheel. I try to go with the philosophy of if I see something wrong, then I'm probably going to tell you what I think should be done, or like what my just general thoughts are, at least, so it's some kind of useful feedback. Because what I don't want to do is what some of the other content creators have done, some of which have been listened to and then rebroadcast with the caption from NetEase of "We are working to address these issues." What I don't want to do is make the video of "These are things that they can't ignore. Look how bad this is. Also, look how bad that is. And that's terrible too. Thank you for watching my video." Like, I think there is something to be said. And I would encourage everybody watching the stream, if you have like thoughts on how they could fix things, go over to the Eve Echoes Discord, go to their feedback, their bug reporting and their suggestions area, and give them a 1 or 2, 3 sentence idea of, hey, this element of the game isn't working right, or could be improved. This is what I think it should look like. Give them something, right? Don't just be like, this is shit, right? Give them something, you know. So, and hopefully we see like the overview fix. Hopefully, somebody in the chat just said if they get the overview to work, maybe they can add bookmarks on an overview tab. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, that could be a good way to house the overview. So, like, depending on how you have your overview set up, I have mine set up. I have a warp point, which is only set up for the sun and warp gates. So I could have an overview one that's set up for bookmarks, and I just click it, and it's bookmarks, and it's all the bookmarks in that system that I can see in Warp 2. That might be a good solution for it. I think you'd probably have to have another contacts tab type thing in order to manage them when you're not in the system, though. Let's look at some other things that are set on the stream here. SB Jones says, I don't care about PvP in Eve Echoes. I care that it added 5 to 7 seconds to each warp jump. Okay. What do you guys think about the 5 to 7 seconds per jump? Because now they've got it set up so that you fully load grid and remain cloaked. Once you're fully loaded grid, then your ship will continue on autopilot.
I hate it. It's personally, I didn't have a problem with loading grids. Maybe others had, I don't know, but it really slows you down when you travel large distances. This is especially relevant for alliances such as us, who live deep in nullsec. Whenever we do have on occasion to travel to highsec, it just takes hours, right?
So I will say this to give some perspective, and this isn't for me to challenge your assertion that it takes hours. Let's say that we're going 50 jumps, and in those 50 jumps, we're adding an extra 5 seconds for every jump we do. That comes out over 50 jumps to being about 4 minutes of travel time. Now, what I have told viewers in the past on this issue was, as much as I don't like the delay, I have had my game lag before entering a system, and I think it's preferable to have 4 or 5 seconds of lag time where I'm not going to die in a fire, because I can't activate modules, reapproach gate, whatever the case is, than if I just die because I didn't want to waste 4 extra minutes over the course of 50 jumps. I think the trade-off is a good trade-off, but I totally understand in the moment when you're trying to get somewhere, it can feel like forever when you're trying to get that 5-second timer off.
Yeah, and I think it's, I mean, you have a point there. I'm not sure how much the actual delay is. It feels longer than 4 or 5 seconds for sure, at least to me. Don't know. But even when you're just operating within the space, right, and you have a ship that is already slow and you want to catch up with, let's say, a Rome that's already started, and everything just, it feels slower
yeah,
to
there's
manually
definitely an aspect of what
pilot.
it feels like, the perception.
And yeah, and before that, it didn't feel as bad. Maybe also people were flying smaller ships on average, but still, it's not a great experience to fly through space at the moment.
Yeah, no, for sure. I totally get that. And just earlier today, I took out 2 ships. I was dual boxing, and one of them just disconnected. So I had one client that was doing fine, and the other one just shut off and just wouldn't load in. And to somebody else in there, somebody said something about the amount of clicks you have to make in order to log into the goddamn game. Yeah, having to press the screen 6 times to change characters, or having to press the screen 4 times to start the game. Yeah, it's terrible, especially if you disconnect right before, like, you're trying to fight something or you're in an encounter and you're trying to get back in game and you're just button mashing, trying to get back in the game. It's rough.
Yeah. To be fair, those kind of disconnects, I feel, are much more severe than the delay. I think the delay is something we can get used to because everyone is affected by it, to the same degree. Whereas the disconnects, some have them, some don't. Like I never had a disconnect while traveling. I'm glad. Maybe it's because of the emulator I'm using. But others get disconnected constantly, and I wouldn't want to travel on autopilot even with a fast ship if I know, like, I jump into a new system, I get disconnected, I decloak, and I sit there for minutes potentially before I disappear.
So I've bitched in the past about the warp disruption stuff. Supposedly it's gonna change, but I do want to echo comments from all over Reddit, Facebook, all over the social media sphere, and my fellow content creators that, my God, the warp disruption to warp stability factor has destroyed any semblance of combat in this game. And as an example, I took a arbitrator covert ops with 2 + 2 points, so 4 strength, over into enemy space. It took me 48 hours to find a single target, whether that was miners, people leaving station, coming to station, people in anomalies, just anybody I could find. They warped away. Always warped away. They always had more than +4 stability. It's obnoxious. And it's specifically obnoxious because the downside, so in EVE Online, there's a huge penalty to using warp stabilizers. Huge. Does not exist in this game. The penalty is nothing. And to the point where even PvP ships are using warp stabs as part of their standard go-to fit. I was in a belt and I shot at a retriever. The retriever warps off because he's got some ungodly amount of stability, and a hound decloaks. And I'm like, well, this is not a fight the hound wants to take, but let's do this anyway. He points me, and I'm like, fuck yeah, he's going to stay and fight. I put 4 points on him. He warps away. He's combat fit, and he's set up with stabs. And I would like to remind everybody watching the stream, or if you didn't know, OP4S Alliance's doctrine fit when they started the game was beam omens with warp stability on them. They were warp stab fit omens. The whole fucking fleet doctrine was made to be able just to warp off field and run away. The whole thing was max coward fit. That's the state of PvP in the game right now. We had somebody the other day almost rage quit the goddamn game because they locked down a hurricane and they had 8 people pointing the hurricane. 8 people. That's a maximum of maybe like 16 stability. The hurricane had nothing but stabs on. He had aura stabs and he had warp stab rigs warped away. I would have just desk flipped at that point. Like how? And that's okay because the hurricane can still function that way because the penalties just don't exist. It's obnoxious. Okay, and rant. I'm sorry.
But well, we might have an audience. If I see another miner getting popped in our space without proper warp stab on it, I'm gonna lose my shit. So
You don't
Seriously,
want to see that.
like, come on,
so many,
guys. You should not be
but
dying in mining ships because
it's
it's so easy not to die.
it's an enemy territory as well. Like it goes both ways. You look at kill maze and there's everything in those low slots, but warp stability. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Hold on.
The one ship that have that well, the two ships that should have warp stability is anything that's hauling and anything that's mining should be warp stab fit. If you're out there and you're in a combat ship and you fit warp stabs, delete your goddamn game. You are cancer. I hate you. Okay, so I want to talk about the economy real quick before we wrap this up. If there's anybody in the stream chat that wants to ask any questions to myself, Max, or Saipak, go ahead and type your questions now. We're going to be closing out the stream here. It's been a long stream, almost 2 hours now, but we've been happy to do it. So if there's a question, where are your miners located? In space. They're in space. Come find them. Okay, let's talk about the economy real quick. Pros and cons of the current economy right now. Saipak, go.
Right. I would like more data on it. I know we have a website where there's some data pulled from somewhere. I don't know whether they have space limmers, like jotting down
I think
information
it's a
every 10 minutes
sweatshop.
or
Yeah.
probably, but I would like more data. And I think there's so many opinions out there of where Plex is going to go and how things are going to go, and then new new stuff coming out. We just had Tech 7 not too long ago, and I think it's interesting, and I think there's a lot of dynamics, and at the same time also obviously lots of potential problems, how things are implemented, us not being able to put up what it was buy orders, sell orders at non-ICTs. We were locked
That
locked
that
from
is that is fixed now. I was able to put out buy orders.
right. But I think it's an interesting topic, and I mean, there's lots of opportunities, especially if you're far away from high sec. There's lots of interesting elements there, like moving stuff through space. Um, it's not exactly the one thing that I focus on the most. I think, especially now since stepping up at the alliance level, I barely even look at the market. I don't have any time for any of that stuff. But I think it's an interesting topic, and one of the sort of earliest memories I have of EVE Online is dissertations being written about the economy of EVE Online, and that was fascinating. I
Yeah.
They
thought it
had
was awesome.
they had an actual economist
Economist on the
on
team.
staff.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Max, what do you got? Pros and cons of the current economy.
I think overall it's great, to be honest. It's one of the better aspects of the game, I feel. I like that there's not so much incentive to flip items. Like people are not sitting at ITCs just making ISK by flipping items due to all the taxes you have to pay, right? Potentially, I don't know. Maybe some are still doing that. On the other thing that I would like to mention is bots. Obviously, they can have such an impact on the economy, and it's so crucial that they are well controlled and don't get out of control, because they can just completely kill the market, especially with the Plex system. So I don't know. What's your take? Do we have at the moment an out of control botting situation, or are you pretty happy with the way NetEase is putting their thumbs on it?
So I need to see more statistics on the botting and how much they're actually getting rid of. I know they gave some number the other day, but at the same time, on a mobile platform, it is harder to detect, right? And I actually came into contact with somebody running scripts the other day, and I was thinking about showing the video on the stream, but because I have not heard back from the developers, I am not going to name the individual and directly accuse him of scripting until NetEase gives me feedback. Now, honestly, they probably won't, right? They typically do not respond and be like, "Yes, Joe was botting and we have banned him." Like you just don't hear back. So I'll just have to wait and see if he disappears. But I was down in some enemy space and I'm flying around and I see this guy and he's got like 6 or 7 accounts, all names. Like it's named like Kanos 1, Kanos 2, Kanos 3, Kanos 4, and they're all moving in unison. And now, as somebody who does Fleet Command on the daily, I know how Fleet Commands work, okay? I know that when I issue a Fleet Command to do something, the human error takes time. If I've got multiple screens, I have to push multiple buttons or multiple clicks of my mouse on different screens in order to multi-box. And again, I'm someone who multi-boxes. I have done up to 4 accounts at a time. So I know even if I've got iPad or multiple emulators, it's still multiple clicks if I'm not using a script. So I'm watching this guy and he's doing his mining, and then I see a bunch of frigates, and the frigates are moving very oddly. This is what the frigates are doing. They warp into a belt in a formation. There's 3 of them, so my fingers are the 3 frigates. They warp in, they land at the same time. Okay, that's fine, a fleet warp. Then they do the damnedest thing that you cannot possibly do as a human clicking buttons. They do a starburst, all at the exact same second. One goes left, one goes right, and one goes forward, all at the same time. Just a perfect, like a firework going off. No fucking way can a person click that many accounts at the same time. Okay? So he does this with the frigates at the same time, right? I come back later and I'm watching his mining ships, and he's got all these retrievers. I warp into the belt, and I shit you not, the overview in sync, all the retrievers yellow boxing at the same time. Not like down the line, they're out of sync boxing at different times. Perfect fucking time. All yellow boxes in sync. And then the frigates warp in sync. Like, no fucking way. There's no fucking way you have 12 accounts right now running and you're moving all 12 perfectly in sync. So I've personally seen it. So I know it's out there and it's not getting detected because these scripts are advanced enough if you're running it on emulators that they just can't catch it. So I think it is killing the economy. It's destroying a lot of things. Every day on Reddit or Facebook, I see posts of people posting the same shit, and it's always the same type of thing. It's people with, Max Portis 1, Max Portis 2, Max Portis 3. Like, they're not even hiding it. They're just doing it because they know that they can't log it on the server side to prove it, right? And it's obnoxious. And the other thing I would say that adds to the economy issues that I think are there, is there's no blueprints for modules. There's no BPOs. You can't build things, right? Right now, warp disruptors are going for like 20 some odd mil. Like a cheap piece of shit warp disruptor that does nothing because warp stabs drop like candy, so it's useless anyway. It's still like 20 mil. Doesn't make any sense because we just can't build stuff. Drones are drop items. What? Why? Yeah, somebody in the chat says warp scramble will be more expensive. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be obnoxious. And I don't know what the solution is other than introduce blueprints. Let us build stuff.
Let's hope for the best.
Cool.
Maybe a stupid question, Kerensky, but with the high prices of warp disruptors, do you think this makes roaming gangs of gankers even less likely to engage in a proper PvP situation? Like imagine you have a roaming gang and someone mounts a defense gang, and they're kind of, I know this rarely happens, but there's a situation where there could an actual engagement could emerge, right? But if the gankers or the roamers need to fit so many points in the first place to be able to lock something down, right? So if they're just 5 people, they have to bring a lot of points between them, which means they have to sacrifice damage and tank on their ships. Do you think this makes them, less likely to engage in a proper, PvP? And seeing as there's no real ability to lock things down, this creates an environment where like emergent small scale PvP doesn't really happen like that.
So yeah, I think the simple answer is yes. And again, I can use my own personal experience here. Flying around in a Dramiel, I have to gimp the Dramiel fit and put 2 fucking points on it. Or my Arbitrator Covert Ops, I have to gimp the mid slots. And what I would normally want, I might want a newt or a nos and a point and a web. I want a web so I can apply more damage, right? Nope, sorry, I can't have any of those. I have to have a full rack of warp disruptors. And now my fucking warp disruptors are almost the same price as the whole ship. And all for what? Because some guy got a free drop and he's got +4 stability right off the bat. And it's obnoxious and it kills PvP. And the solution is actually worse. It destroys the small scale PvP because the idea now is you have to have 10 or 20 people to accomplish locking down a person. And that's not good for the game. It discourages solo, it discourages sub 10 man groups going around because they know they're not going to be able to catch things unless they all fit points. And that shouldn't be the way that the game is made. And to your other point, when you actually misspoke, I have to correct you. There is no downfall to a tank fit
Right.
for
Sorry.
putting
Yeah.
points on
Yeah.
because, and this has been my biggest bitch since the beginning of Alpha, all the ships are fit the same. They all have the same loadouts. Like I was just for shits and giggles earlier looking at the tier 9 and tier 10, the battleships. They're all the same. They all have the same amount of gun slots. They all have the same mid slots. They all have the same low slots. There's no difference in fitting them. Like we're sitting here theory crafting doctrines and stuff, and my mid slots are always going to be the same for like a fleet setup. Always going to be the same. My low slots always going to be the same, except it might be armor or a shield module, but it's going to be the same type of module. It's going to do the same thing. So they have killed the ability to have really unique builds, especially killed it with the fact that if you want to lock something down, you sacrifice your entire rack of mid slots in order to lock somebody down, and that's the current state of PvP right now. And the only reason we get kills in fleet warfare right now is overwhelming firepower. We kill somebody before they know they're dying, so they just get whacked off the field, and then they just didn't have a chance to warp away. Because the moment they know they're getting shot, they just warp, they leave.
Yeah. So you field two important weapons. You field alpha power and you field lag.
You feel a lot of lag, absolutely. So, yeah. Okay, gentlemen, let's go and wrap this up. Any final comments? Saipak, final thoughts, final anything you want to say to the viewers?
Yeah, hop by our Discord, GenFat Discord. I believe Laundria posted the link about 500 times already. And say hello and be assimilated, be recruited. If you're a corporation that's interested, we're always open to talk, and we're generally nice people, despite what people say. So go GenFat.
Absolutely. Max,
Go GenFed.
go GenFed. That was the shortest thing Max has ever said. And I do want to tell all the viewers, I didn't know Max was a happy person because every time we're on comms and we're planning things, he just sounds like a super serious German man. And so I didn't actually know he knew how to smile. This is surprising to me. Saipak, did you know that he smiled before the stream?
Sort of, yeah. I think sometimes he's sort of in the mood for it, but more on a corporation level, less on the alliance level, when more shit's happening. So yeah, but he's all right.
Very well. All right.
He's my
To all,
boss.
yes, you got to say nice things about him. I understand. I don't say anything nice about Mama Rex. In fact, I am the one who gave her the nickname of the Space Tyrant. So I will happily badger her because she makes my life miserable by giving me extra work. So again, everyone, check us out. Laundry just posted the Discord link there. Gentech Fed for the Discord. We will hopefully see you over there. Our enemies will hopefully be seeing you soon. Everyone, again, thanks for coming to the stream. Please subscribe, check out our YouTube, check out our website, check out our Discord. I am Kanos Kerensky, and this has been The Kanos Kerensky Show. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends to subscribe too. Be sure to check out the rest of the Genesis Wire content at www.genesistaccfed.com/GenesisTackWire. Thanks for listening. The Canos Kerensky Show is produced by Canos Kerensky. Executive Producer Tim the Lemur. Supervising Producer Moses the Lemur. Assistant Director Pavel the Lemur. Technical Producer Jolly the Lemur. Playback and media operated by a neckbeard. Edited by Nobody. Costume by a secondhand store. Hair and makeup by a lemur with glaucoma. All EVE Online source materials are copyright CCP 2020. All EVE Echoes source materials are copyright CCP and NetEase 2020. The Canos Kerensky Show is a Genesis Wire production. Copyright Genesis Wire 2020.